We're live. We're back on time today.
On
time. I think for the first time.
I know. I feel like we're 5 to 10 minutes late basically every time. So yeah, on time this morning, rocking it, ready to go.
There we go. Good morning to you.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, I think we're like 12 hours or something apart. So it's actually always like a bit challenging to put these together, but we'll find time for each other. So
I think it's actually 11 hours or 13 hours maybe, because it's 10 a.m. here and it's 9 p.m. there. So 11 hours, really, technically 11 hours. Yeah, quality Middle East to California time difference.
Yeah, we're covering all time zones. There we are.
What's your difference with the folks in Asia, like Korea?
I think it's like a 5-hour difference, 4 to 5 hours.
Oh, that's nice. That's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the best. I mean, there's many great things about living in Dubai. You know, obviously, legally, it's a great place to set up a business, especially if you're in crypto. There's tax benefits here, right? That's like what attracts a lot of people. It's very safe. It's very clean. It's very just, you know, like high kind of quality of life. But also to work from here is nice because you're covering pretty much like most time zones. Obviously, US is a bit challenging, but like Europe is nice. It's like just 2 or 3 hours, and Asia is also good. And flying from here to pretty much anywhere is like one flight, like super accessible. And
it's the biggest hub.
Yeah. You've never been to Dubai, right?
Not yet, no. One of these days, we'll get there soon. But yeah, I only hear amazing things. And a bunch of folks are excited about Cosmoverse there this year, by the way, which congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's I honestly think like we're probably like underestimating how big it will be this year, simply because it's Bull Run, number one. Number two, it's Dubai, you know, and everyone is here right now. Next month in April, there's this huge Token 2049 conference with like 10,000 people.
Conferences in Dubai this year. Yeah.
It's wild, yeah. And also, I think it's, you know, Cosmos is just much larger than, like, every year we're saying that, right? Like there's like now 20 more chains and there's like 20 more teams and there's more VCs that are interested. And yeah, I mean,
growth.
Yeah, which is great. But I think also, like, you know, every time it gets more and more like challenging and more people, and we need an extra room, we need more stands, we need this, you know, more this, more that. And yeah, it's a lot of work. So it's nice.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think we're here to chat Rollchains, maybe? I teased this last time I was on.
Yeah. I think last time we talked was just before you went out for Denver.
Yeah.
So how was Denver? How was the vibe? And you did an announcement there, right?
Yeah, we didn't do an announcement. We actually announced right after Denver. I think the question was like, do we do it before or after? We were trying to get it out before, but it ended up being after. Vibe was great. Really good to see folks in Denver packed. You know, lot of folks at that conference. You know, as an American, tend to love Denver for a wide variety of reasons. We've got like 5 Strangelove team members there. And yeah, it was definitely Americans were overrepresented and Europeans underrepresented, which is a nice change of pace for crypto conferences. But yeah, folks were pretty upbeat and really cool to see the bull market conference. Nick White from Celestia had a tweet where he was like, can people stop booking conference venues where the socializing area and the speaking area is like not separated? And somebody responded like, worked great in the bear market. And it was, so yeah, I think that there were a few events that I went to where it was like overcrowded a little bit. And, you know, that's great. It's cool to see. Like the Agoric event that I went to, it took like 20 minutes to get people to quiet down so we could start the panels, which was pretty funny. And they brought in a porcupine right before that too, which was also pretty funny. So yeah, it was great. Good to see everyone and good turnout.
I think the cool thing about Denver, I mean, it's also quite of a bit of a random location, right? Like I think someone also tweeted like, why Denver, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's like, how do you say, like iconic. It's kind of like this legendary place. And, you know, when people like, it starts, I think, from the airport. I was there once in 2022, which was like peak like literally the bull run top.
Yeah.
And it's like literally the entire city is full with crypto people, right? So it's like, it's just a vibe.
Packed. The U.S. is so big, and Denver is basically the capital of the Mountain West. It's by far the largest town in that entire area of the country, down even to Arizona, up as far north as Canada. It's really not until you get to like the Pacific Northwest with like Portland and Seattle and Northern California where you start seeing cities that are larger than Denver. And then if you go east, it's just the plains, and there's like nothing until you hit the Mississippi, basically. I mean, there's Kansas City, but Denver's the biggest city in that part of the country.
Mm.
Yeah.
What was the top 3 or whatever kind of things that stand out to you that you met, maybe ideas that you heard, builders that you met, projects that you met, anything Cosmos related or even non-Cosmos related? But what are some of the things you heard in Denver?
I think that there's a lot more Ethereum people looking more seriously into Cosmos, and like some of the Ethereum core dev teams, chatted with a bunch of those folks. They're very interested. A lot of people have commented on this, but it's definitely something that was obvious, was the lack of actual applications, and most folks are building infrastructure. I have mixed feelings about this. I'm an infrastructure person. I've always done infrastructure and developer experience stuff. So really cool to see more folks kind of coming over to the perspective that we need to fix those pieces before we can really scale. But at the same time, I think we're over-indexed on infrastructure builders and under-indexed on folks building applications. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but disappointing and frustrating.
So when you say Ethereum people look more into Cosmos, what exactly do you mean by that?
We're Ethereum people looking into Cosmos. Ethereum teams looking to build with the Cosmos technology, whether it's, like there's a team that I've talked to a number of times who builds one of the core Ethereum consensus clients. And there's some stuff that they're trying to get into in Cosmos, helping make different Comet BLS and Comet BFT improvements or Comet BLS type stuff, work on different interop pieces with the different ecosystems, starting to, look more seriously at the technology. I think, there's been this meta for a long time that Cosmos incubates a lot of ideas that Ethereum ends up taking on. And the way that manifesting now is more teams like more interested in what we've been working on for years, which is cool. Because I think that, if you look at Ethereum versus Solana, Ethereum has neglected performance on the core chain for a while. And we see this manifesting with extremely high fees on the Ethereum mainnet frequently. We run the CCTP relayers right now, and there's some days where it's just like we're out of funds constantly, and you've got to just like constantly refill the wallet, which is painful, honestly, and definitely not mass adoption. So and then the way that they have chosen to scale is through the L2s, but they never thought through the composability and bridging story. And I think that bridging in Ethereum has been a story of hacks and loss of funds. And, what we've developed over here in Cosmos with IBC and true cross-chain composability and like full call and response and arbitrary application data payloads in the interoperability, like these are things that a lot of folks in the Ethereum land are looking at, and they're like, wow, that's pretty cool what you guys have. Like, it's nice. We want that. And, folks like Union made a big splash at that event. I think they were all over the place. They had a bunch of team members there. It was really good to see Carol and Core and, the whole team there. So yeah, those were kind of my highlights.
Yeah, I also feel like there's a lot of like Cosmos native chains, like Sane Network as well, right? And even Celestia, Ejective, right? That are like targeting actually more the Ethereum community, right? Even you guys, I think, with Sommelier, right?
Yeah.
It's like Ethereum developers, Ethereum holders, like ecosystem participants. So I think it's mutually.
I think that there's like, there's this synthesis happening, and that's good. It's broadly positive. I think that, it's going to be great for Cosmos in the long term. Berachain is, I think, the project launching that's the most of the crossover. But yeah, the Say and Injective teams have both been very proactive in reaching out to the Ethereum side of things. And both of those teams kind of have their roots in the Ethereum ecosystem in a lot of ways. Like I know the Injective guys who've been building for years, like they were originally ETH folks and kind of came over to Cosmos.
What are your top 3 launches in Cosmos this year, like project launches?
Penumbra, and Penumbra. I joke. Penumbra, Fairblocks is another one I'm really excited about. I think the Berachain launch is going to be extremely closely watched. And then Rollchains, obviously.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I also see Rob in the chat, Digital Asset News, GM, hello, sir.
Yeah.
It's an honor to have him in the audience. Penumbra, can you talk about why Penumbra and also Fairblocks? I think those are like, I think the big ones that are coming. You mentioned Berachain. I think Babylon is like everyone's like highly anticipated.
Saga is launching. Though. They're just launching more features, right? Isn't Babylon have a live chain, or maybe just doesn't Babylon have a live chain?
No, they're not. They're not a mainnet yet. Not yet.
Okay.
But Saga is launching next month. I think that's also a big one.
Huge one. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, can you talk why Penumbra and why Fairblocks? I think those are probably less known in the community.
Yeah, those are the 2 privacy projects I'm personally most excited about, and they each take kind of a unique perspective on privacy. I've been talking to Henry. Henry at Penumbra came to me back right after we launched IBC. And he had like he was like, hey, can I get you for lunch? And like, we went to lunch in downtown SF. We sit down and he's like, so how many characters can I stuff in the IBC receiver field? And I was like, could have asked me that on a text. And his idea was to do this fully private Cosmos chain, but the proofs for who would receive the tokens would be fairly large. And he wanted to make sure that there wasn't any limit on that receiver field on Cosmos chains that would make that hard to do. And, you know, that was kind of always his idea for Penumbra, was this IBC capable private decentralized exchange. And, you know, Henry and his team, a lot of them worked on Zcash, and they have, you know, over a decade of experience at this point, in some cases more, working on making privacy usable and easy to use for the average user. And I think Henry's thesis has always been, in order to deliver that full experience in real privacy across any number of different spectrums, whether it's thinking about the data after it leaves the blockchain and like how you as a user interact with that via your browser and how that might leak potential metadata, things like that. Henry and his team have thought through that more deeply than anyone else I've really talked to in the industry. And I think a big part of that is because of their experience building and shipping these things at scale before. So Penumbra is going to be a fully integrated L1 IBC compatible that top to bottom is built to be the most private place on the internet to go trade. And, you know, I think that folks can see there might easily be huge regulatory issues with that or whatever. And, you know, I think that they, as a team, are dedicated to bringing this to users in a real way. And like, we've been supporting them from the IBC protocol side for a very long time. I'm an early investor in that project. I really like Henry as a founder. I love the entire team that I've worked with there. And I'm just really excited to see them launch. The summoning, they had, I think, over 10,000 applications, which was pretty cool. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of excitement for it too. So that's one. And then Fairblocks is another privacy project. And while Penumbra is taking this integrated approach where they have the whole chain and the front end and all of that stuff for the users, and that's what they're using, Fairblocks is using MPC, multi-party compute, to be able to do encrypt, decrypt on smaller pieces. So augmenting existing applications to bring privacy to them wherever they live within the cryptoverse. And I think these two approaches are both very valid, and it'll be cool to see how the adoption happens for both of them. And the work that Fairblock is doing is a lot more applicable to areas like MEV and other areas where there's like a little bit of on-chain privacy needed instead of an entire end-to-end private system. Private governance voting on Stargaze and Osmosis are applications that they're going to be bringing to Cosmos very soon. They just got to testnet, and we should see mainnet sometime this year. Very excited about both of those projects. And I think privacy is one of the things that we are most missing in crypto.
Literally today, I recorded an episode on that. Like it's in editing now. It will come in a couple of days. But literally, I think privacy is probably like the least obvious narrative or category, or like least flashy at least. But I think it's also like fundamental part and the fundamental philosophy of crypto in the first place, right? Like empowering the people, because most of the crypto space right now is just like public by default. And we're like forced without consent to like publish all that we're doing. But I think there's probably going to be a bit of a privacy season, as in a lot of big projects launching. You mentioned Penumbra, Fairblock. There's also Namada. How do you see Namada fit into that?
Chris is fantastic. I loved working with him on IBC. Adrian is an early Cosmos person. Awa has been around the ecosystem for a very long time. Love that team. I think that they're doing great work as well. Similar approach to Penumbra, but a little bit more of a platform approach where they envision other folks spinning up chains. They're doing some more experimental stuff on the consensus side, whereas Penumbra is just like taking Tendermint for what it is and trying to like build on top of that. They're going down to different layers of the stack, just a slightly different focus. I think that the Penumbra approach is more product focused than the Namada approach, which is something I personally like.
And Chris, that you mentioned, he's actually an absolute OG in Cosmos, right? Like I think he's one of the earliest kind of contributors to IBC and Cosmos.
Yeah, totally. When I started at Tendermint way back in the day, I remember Chris was already there. And I like the way that I became product manager was I sat down with Chris and Chris explained to me the current state of the code base and like where we were trying to go. And we sat down and worked together to build out a roadmap. And that was kind of the beginning of my Cosmos product journey. So yeah, Chris and I have been working together for a very long time. Love what they're working on at Namada. And, Chris shares those fundamental beliefs that privacy is an extremely important part of a free society. And that in order for crypto to reach its true potential, we need to offer privacy to users.
So it's a good question, McGregor. Not a dumb question, it's a good question. Why is privacy important for using crypto? What are your...
Oh, give me 1 second here. This camera will come right back. I was noticing that I was getting issues focusing, and there's something that I need to use.
Oh, nice.
Oh, no, come on.
There
we go. Look at my laptop, and then I have the other camera. So why is privacy important for using crypto? I feel like this. I feel two ways about this. One is that I think the existing financial system, privacy is over-indexed on, and it leads to a lot of information games. And when we think about MEV, it's basically information games, and it leads to bad outcomes for users. However, you can easily think of why having some of your personal financial information private is extremely important from an operational security perspective or other. And while there are huge benefits to transparent systems, being able to get privacy when you need it is extremely important. And I think that, again, this is one of the reasons why IBC is one of the best things out there in crypto, is that when you have that boundary at the chain level where you can say, hey, I'm on a transparent chain and all of this information, I have no problem being public. But when I need privacy, I can move over to a private chain, do stuff there, and be able to get that privacy when I need it. Like this is what Tornado Cash did for Ethereum. And, I think it's extremely important. So why is privacy important for using crypto? I would say, why is privacy important when you're using money? And I think you can think of a lot of examples of that. I would say the same thing for crypto.
I asked the same question in 2018. I was at a crypto event in Korea, and I met Ricardo Spagni, Fluffy Pony, one of the lead engineers for Monero, and I asked him that question because to me at that point I always thought like privacy coins like Monero, they're like only used for any sort of kind of malicious things.
Buying drugs, yeah.
Yeah, and then he said because it's a fundamental right and like people kind of deserve privacy, right? Like we should have the choice. It should be like privacy by default, and then from there people can decide what they want to share with the public and what not, right? And I also think from a business perspective, right? You have competitors as a business, right? You want to keep certain things in stealth and private identities, right? I think there's a lot of like different things besides just money and what you're having, right?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to quote some of the founding texts, which the Cypherpunk Manifesto is one that I always come back to. And it starts, the opening paragraph says, privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. Privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something one doesn't want the whole world to know, but a secret matter is something one doesn't want anybody to know. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. And I think, that's critical. You want that ability to selectively reveal yourself. You don't want all of the information out there about you because then people just judge you and dismiss you very quickly. And if you can keep things private, that's really important. The ability to keep your keys private is an incredibly important thing. And you use those keys to selectively reveal information about you to the world. So privacy, extremely important, and it's a fundamental human right. And the government's trying to take it from us right now. So it's extra important.
Very true, very true. And I mean, yeah, you can even see it when in the crypto space, right?
Yeah.
Centralized exchanges are like under scrutiny to delist Monero, right? XMR, all these privacy coins.
Yeah.
Like that does, I mean, obviously that's bearish for the price, right? Like less liquidity. But if we forget that for a second and just say, what is crypto actually about, right? It's actually about that. And actually increases the need and kind of the demand for privacy technology to kind of evolve, right? Which is why in this video that I just shot today, coming out soon, I actually talk about that literally for 15 minutes. And like this next generation, like we're saying, the Penumbras, the Namadas that are launching, I think specifically in Cosmos, there's a lot of innovation on the privacy side of things. So yeah, I'm very excited. I think this is one of the probably least obvious and least kind of flashy narratives, but probably the most important one.
I agree. I think that the ability to have the fact that Cosmos chains have validator sets offers a lot of options for encryption and decryption that are unavailable on L2s where you don't have that kind of consensus network. So I think it also flexes a strength of this Cosmos architecture.
Keyword validators. We have here a lovely comment, IC55. In the present. Let's go, LFG. But yeah, let's talk about Rollchains. So like we said earlier, before Denver, the last splitting atom episode, you were teasing something.
Yeah.
So tell us all about it.
Yeah. So I've been working on this stack for a long time, and I think I've always tried to pick work that would make what I see as the biggest difference in the ecosystem. And, for a long time, that was removing the blockers to shipping IBC, and ensuring that IBC has long-term sustainability. And that's effectively been what I've been working on for the last 5+ years. And yes, Patrick, Strangelove is me. Please delegate. We always love delegations from folks like yourself. Happy to keep those safe. After the last couple of years, I think, especially with the launch of Celestia and DYDX and many other Cosmos chains that we talk about on this show, IBC has reached this kind of escape velocity. And in terms of the network expansion stuff that I was talking about a lot last year, the different teams working on that, whether it's Avalanche or Union or Polymer or Composable or whatever it is, they're really pushing IBC out there. And there's, a bunch of other stuff happening behind the scenes with ZK IBC and a number of other things. And we are still the largest bridge by volume and continuing to grow that lead. So I think IBC's kind of reached escape velocity. And now when I look at the ecos, but all of these different Cosmos chains have very different core technologies, and the ecosystem is kind of slowly drifting apart. That's one problem. And then another problem is, as somebody looking to use Cosmos, and we're still the best build your own blockchain framework out there, there's a lot of common development pain that teams have, and it's really hard to pull the best from around the ecosystem that's in the open source, put it together into a chain, and then add something of your own to it. There's a lot of integration pain there. And go look at the Juno chain and see how, because Juno is trying to fast follow on a lot of this stuff, see how hard it's been for Juno to pull in all of these different pieces throughout the ecosystem. And if you talk to SDK developers, they talk a lot about version mismatches and pain with dependencies and things like that. So that kind of fragmentation. And especially with the modular narrative coming up, I don't think that there's anyone saying like, hey, you might want consensus clusters too. And in this modular world, Cosmos chains still have a role to play. And I think they're interesting for a lot of reasons. We talked back at Cosmoverse about POA chains and sort of enterprise adoption and all of these things. And, besides the IBC stuff over the last year, this is kind of what I've been thinking about is like, where's the next piece of growth for the development kit that is Cosmos going to come from, and how do we need to accelerate that? And Rollchains is kind of the culmination of that work and where we're going to start pushing moving forward. It's to help bring together the best in the ecosystem, make it really easy for developers who are new here to get started and start deploying on a lot of these options, whether it's to your own Cosmos chain via POA, using Celestia, using Ethos for restaked Ethereum, using interchain security or partial set security, or any of these many option dimension and rollups, any of these many options within Cosmos. The ambition has always been to make this whole ecosystem that runs on top of the software feel like one for users. And I think that, the approach that we're taking with Spawn and what we're bundling together to offer to developers is going to help accelerate that quite a bit.
Yesterday was a big announcement about Noble evolving into a Rollchain. And I think a lot of cosmonauts took this as in Noble is now fully abandoning interchain security. Obviously, maybe for backstory, like Noble was first formally announced at Cosmos 2022 in Medellin in September 2022. Basically, the original idea. And I think from the beginning, there's always been this kind of discussions that Noble would become this native USDC issuance chain and other assets. So basically a native asset issuance chain, but mainly for USDC. 2 years later now, almost 1.5 years, we are at 200 million or something crazy, like 200 million USDC.
A little over 200 million, yeah.
Issued on Noble, natively issued on Noble, Circle USDC. And Noble is a proof of authority chain right now, which basically a permission kind of validator set. There's no native coin, no token for the Noble chain. So I think the Cosmos Hub community is waiting now. Okay, when is Noble migrating? Shared security in the Cosmos Hub is live. Then yesterday an announcement came out, Noble is evolving into a roll chain. So a lot of people took that as in, okay, they're not using shared security anymore from the Cosmos Hub. That's off. But that's actually not true, right? So can you maybe address that and share your thoughts there?
Yeah. So
by the way, I think there's I think some issue with your mic. I don't know.
This is what happened. My mic got kicked into the wrong place. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Sorry for.
Is that better? Sorry. Switch. Yes. Thank you.
Now we're talking.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, this camera has a mic on it. It's horrible, and sometimes I get thrown in there, and it's terrible. I hate it. And I can't tell. So anyway, sorry. Thank you, Sinjin. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I was able to fix that. So this Rollchains module is the ability for Cosmos chains to write data to Celestia. And this is independent of other forms of security. Stride has also adopted this, is also going to be adopting this Rollchains module. And they're already on ICS. So this is an additive thing that helps position chains to take advantage of the technical breakthroughs that Celestia has made over the last few years, and the advances in interoperability that it will bring, especially with the roll-up ecosystem that Celestia is building. And I think that, as Celestia's Cosmos chain, we as a community have been closest to that project for a long time. We see the benefits there, and Cosmos chains want to make sure that they're able to take advantage of these new markets that Celestia is going to open up. So posting data to Celestia is a great first way to do that, and really positions them strongly for the future. And I think that, this is independent of interchain security.
To what degree are you actually still kind of involved in Noble? Because Strangelove was originally the engineering team, right?
Yeah. We're not doing as much of the engineering anymore, but we're still very involved on the engineering side. We run the CCTP relayer network, still build and maintain that. So when you're moving assets in and out of Cosmos, most folks do that through CCTP now. That runs on Strangelove servers. And yeah, still supporting quite a bit from a technical perspective.
And you mentioned Ethos earlier, Ethos Stake, which is basically going to be, I guess, its own Cosmos chain, but using eigenlayer technology, and also, I think, forking interchain security to basically have a security offering for restaked ETH.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, I have worked at the intersection of Cosmos and Ethereum for a long time, mainly from the Cosmos side. And that work started with Gravity Bridge. I thought that it was critical to bring over Ethereum liquidity into Cosmos and to make that easy. That work turned into SOM, which is showing the benefits of running your own Cosmos chain to help enable vaults and other things like that to be more trustless and permissionless. As well as a lot of the Ethereum IBC work and investing I've done in teams like Palmer and Composable and Union. So this has been a critical intersection for a very long time. With the rise of eigenlayer and restaking, an obvious application for Ethereum, the asset within Cosmos, is using those restaked assets and providing yield to those users in this broader ecosystem. Because of the interoperability characteristics of Cosmos chains, it makes that much, much easier. So, the Ethos team is fantastic. A bunch of OG crypto engineers and folks who've been in this ecosystem for a very long time, working at larger projects generally, coming together to bring Cosmos and Ethereum together from this restaking perspective. And I think that as we're talking about this sort of explosion of modular chains and more Cosmos chains, they're going to need liquidity and assets and, security from a bunch of different places. And the more options we have out on the market, the better. And as we all know, that Ethereum community is huge. And the more that we can bring them over into Cosmos and offer them compelling yield and opportunities here, the better. And I think that Ethos is, the latest in a long line of things that promises to do that in a real way. And I'm very excited to work with Lucas and the team there.
I guess the concern here is that for, again, the Cosmos Hub community, that Ethos launching is bearish for Atom and the Cosmos Hub, because it's basically an alternative kind of security provider chain. How do you view that coexisting? Do you think that is a threat? Do you think it's an irrelevant kind of thought, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think that it's easy to look at this ecosystem and say it's zero sum. But the fact is the only way that we win is if we grow the pie. And one huge way to grow the pie is to bring in folks from Ethereum. I think that Ethos's adoption of some technology that was developed by the Cosmos Hub is a validation of a lot of the stuff that the Hub's been doing for a while and is bringing new money and energy into the ecosystem. I totally understand that people's first reaction is, ooh, scary. But what we should see is a lot of opportunity and some validation of stuff that we're already doing. And, this is what happens when you publish code that's open source. People can and will fork it. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And I think the projects that embrace that and embrace the fact that there can and will be competition and seek to compete are the ones that end up winning. And I think the folks that say, how can we shut down competition, end up getting skirted around and outcompeted.
Very well said. Yeah, I like that. There's also a comment from somebody about the ETH being taken down by the government. I don't know. I saw some tweets about that. Like, did you hear anything about that? Like Ethereum kind of being like under investigation. Did you see anything, or is it just
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is the government's been trying to take down all of our shit for years, and they still haven't. We build government resistant technology here in crypto, and that is a feature, not a bug. I don't think that that's necessarily true. Also, Cool Cat Coding, this is a bit of hyperbole more than anything else. I think that all of the applications I've heard for Ethos, restaked ETH from Ethos, is additive security to existing models within Cosmos. And we were talking about POA. Basically, all of Web 2 runs on shittier versions of POA blockchains. And, I will say that, and people don't really believe me, but go look up things like Raft and Paxos and Zookeeper and systems like Kafka and Cassandra. These are all run on last generation consensus algorithms that run across multiple computers that are much, 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 much less secure than a POA chain. So, a lot of people look at a POA chain and they're like, that's insecure. But what we have is actually much more secure than everything in Web 2. So when you, and with that, the Ethos restaked ETH is just additional security. I don't think there's any world in which Ethereum going down would take down Cosmos, other than from an economic perspective. But we've already had a similar size blow up in Cosmos with Terra. That didn't kill us. So I don't think Ethereum going down would kill us either. And I don't really think ETH will be taken down.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I think if ETH would be taken down, I think it would have a huge short-term impact on the markets, right?
Oh, for sure. Huge impact on the markets. Yeah, it would be real bad. Yeah.
Bloodbath for a long time.
I'm not saying that, I guess just to answer his other thing, I'm not saying that there's no investigation or that the investigation isn't real. I think that the SEC is, in the Biden administration, is actively anti-crypto, and they're doing everything they can to shut down their industry. I do think that there's a lot of remedies within the U.S. Governmental system to help prevent that from happening, be it the courts or other parties or, just the checks and balances inherent in the system. I think that it's incredibly unlikely that the SEC is able to carry through its war against crypto and actually shut it down in a meaningful way. Anyway, that's my...
I agree, yeah. But I think also this might be a strategic move from the SEC to kind of prevent the ETH ETF.
They're going to try.
Which is due in May. So that's 2 months. So I think, we have a lot of bullish kind of events and decisions. We have the halving next month, which is like literally in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Then we have the ETH ETF decision due in May, I think literally 2 months from now. And it's also election year, right? And we talked earlier about Denver and how your kind of vibe was there. How big of a theme or kind of impact did this whole politics, because there are a lot of like candidates, right, that are like pro crypto, or like, is that a big kind of discussion point? And was it at Denver or not really?
I think that the U.S. political situation is so confused, nobody really knows what to make of it, honestly. And people talk about it, but I haven't heard anything actionable out of that dialogue.
Okay. Come to Dubai, Habibi. Here's everything is on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The
What?
ETH ETF, I do think that, the way that the government argued against the Bitcoin ETF and got beat in the courts, they've effectively painted themselves into the corner. They can delay, but they will not be able to prevent. And I do foresee ETH ETF approval prior to the election.
Prior to what?
The election.
The election. Do you think it's going to be approved in May, or like first rejected and then?
I don't have anything useful to say.
Because I think like it's interesting. Like I think a lot of these like high profile, applicants have like have applied there, right? Vanek, Fidelity, I think as well, BlackRock, and I think was it Fidelity that also added staking to the application recently?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, yeah. But I also think I guess the SEC is kind of still on the fence about dealing with proof of stake chains, because I think in general, like an approval would also signal to the rest of every proof of stake chain that they are not securities, I guess, maybe, I don't know. So this could probably also have a huge impact on the markets. And I'm sure they're aware of that. Like if they approve an ETH ETF, I think this has caused a huge alt season. Like altcoins would just fly 10x, boom, within 2 months. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not holding my breath for it. I do think that there's strong fundamentals here. The Bitcoin ETF has already brought new inflows, which is exciting. And yeah, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, that's also true. No market crash when there's an election.
The government is working very hard to print money to help prevent crashes. However, there are historical instances of markets tanking prior to elections. I think that the news over the last week has been that the higher for longer thesis, i.e. around the macro picture around inflation in the US, is kind of been solidified, and that we're seeing higher than historical trend inflation continue. That's generally bearish for the economy and why crypto sold off. So continuing to track that along with some of these other macro factors, I think is important. Yeah.
Yeah, so saw some people in the comments talking about Coreum. Are you following Coreum at all and their kind of expansion? So Coreum, the team behind Coreum is actually the team that's also behind Sologenic. Sologenic is a DeFi platform on the XRP ledger. And this team, they launched a Cosmos Layer 1 blockchain, I think a couple months ago. And they just announced last week or 2 weeks ago that they launched a Cosmos to XRP ledger bridge, which is basically built using like an extension of IBC. So they're also like big IBC maxis now and kind of getting into Cosmos.
Cool.
But yeah, I thought you talked to them before.
I haven't run into them yet. No. Yeah, maybe I have. I don't know, but not a whole ton. Cool. This is, I think, Ripple announced that they're building their EVM as a Cosmos chain. I think that we're just going to see more and more of this, and it's hugely positive for the industry. This thesis around IBC is that the interoperability is a moat, and that it's going to help propel a rising tide that lifts all the boats. And I think that we're seeing that play out in real time. There's a lot of uncertainty around it. There's a lot of FUD. People are scared, but the fact is that it's happening. And these rails are being used to move billions and billions of dollars.
I mean, literally, when we met, and I always tell the story, and people ask me, like, how did you get into Cosmos? It's because I had this random atom in my wallet. I didn't know why, where I bought them. Made a tweet. You responded. You got me on a call and walked me through before IBC went live. And then we kind of documented the creation of IBC here on this YouTube channel, right? And like I went through some of the old interviews we did like a couple of days ago. It's like just looking at myself, like just not knowing anything. It's like I can't even watch it. It's like
you look younger. I look younger too, for that matter.
Yeah, but and now my question is, I mean, I think you always had this like clear vision and fundamental conviction that IBC is going to be the interoperability norm in crypto, right? But now, 3 years later, this is actually kind of a truth, right? Do you think that at this point IBC can still be like get overtaken, dethroned by another standard? Or
I mean, this is, you know, definitely up for debate. We're in the early era where IBC is starting to look like it's just going to roll. I see that picking up steam. I don't see it stopping, but you know, there's a lot of people who are betting against that. So we'll just have to see. But my core thesis has always been you cannot run the entire world on a single token distribution and on a single state machine. It's just not going to work. And the only architecture that's not that out there that I found in 2017 and 2018 is Cosmos. Everything else was like Polkadot rolls up to the dot thing. Ethereum is ETH the asset and ETH the chain, and you see that roadmap that they've developed is this. Solana is the purest vision of this sort of like single state machine that serves as many transactions as possible. And Cosmos is the only one that's bridging first the idea that interoperability is key and that sovereignty is the killer app of crypto. And all of those core theses have not changed for me over the years. And I think that my conviction on those has gotten stronger. So, yeah, I think even among the Cosmos core team, I was probably a little bit of an outlier in terms of my confidence around IBC. You know, I think a lot of folks in Cosmos had a lot of experience with the Ethereum, had sort of different views on this, or were much more sort of like tech evolution maxis and more interested in sort of IBC as the current vision of the latest thing and have since moved on. But, you know, having a neutral and independent interoperability protocol was key to the internet's success. And the fact that that allowed for multiple sovereign projects to have their own servers and all talk to each other was a key to it spreading all over the world and becoming the network that we know today. And I still firmly believe that that's going to be the case in crypto, and that IBC is the only protocol that really matches that. Everything else has some less credibly neutral things about it, or, you know, doesn't have the features necessary to support all the use cases that are needed. Are there some things that are not great about IBC? Yeah. You know, I think a lot of folks look at the handshakes and some of those pieces and they say that's a little over-engineered. Cool. But, you know, if you look at HTTP, there's things that people would say are over-engineered about the internet too. But those standards have become the ones that have become adopted for a lot of reasons. And people have always found ways around some of those things they don't like about it while still hewing to the standard. And I think that that's likely to be the case in crypto as well.
What do you think is the biggest bottleneck for IBC today?
Good question. You know, getting IBC to Ethereum, still job's not done. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing still.
Biggest value unlock.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. And then after that, it's going to be Solana IBC. I think that the work we've done with CCTP has helped enable cash flows into IBC, into the IBC ecosystem in a way that's new. And the work we've done integrating Noble into IBC such that USDC sort of seamlessly moves across the entire ecosystem is a real working example of this thesis around IBC, that you can launch it in one place in IBC and it works everywhere. And, you know, so yeah.
Nice.
What are Jack's thoughts on Atom is money? Bucky said Atom isn't money, and I tend to agree with him.
What is Atom then?
Atom is a meme coin.
I mean, if it was a meme coin, it would probably have 100x the valuation right now. It would be at $100.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is kind of interchain money in a way. It's because of its role as having the most liquidity on centralized exchanges within the Cosmos ecosystem for a very long time. It has always played this role as capital within crypto and within IBC. And I think, you know, what Atom Wars branding I don't love, but Time Wave and a lot of these DAO to DAO covenants type stuff I do love, and I think is definitely the future in many, many ways. And I think Atom is ahead on that. So maybe Atom is money.
I think Bucky said his thesis is basically that Atom is interchain capital, as in kind of, Atom is the most liquid and most dominant asset across all these DeFi applications. But yeah, I agree. I think like Time Wave is a very interesting business model for the Cosmos Hub. I also personally think like some like new exotic use cases like asteroids. I don't know if we talked about it, I think briefly on the 5-year anniversary spaces 2 weeks ago. But are you following that at all? Asteroids and inscriptions, or not too much?
People are stoked about it. People love asteroids. It is not necessarily my favorite thing. The inscriptions thing has a very long history in blockchains, and I respect that. The first project I worked on in crypto was called Blockstack, and that had previously been called Namecoin. And that entire project was based on stuffing data into the op return field on Bitcoin, which is like a 256 character field, and you can basically shove a hash in there. Yeah, this is as old as time. From an engineering perspective, it's inelegant for many ways, but from a user perspective, I totally understand why people like it. I'm glad the Asteroid Protocol folks are bringing this OG crypto meme into Cosmos in a real way. And it's cool to see people use it. Yeah.
I think also what it does is like it not only drives actual on-chain activity, but it also restores and maybe even attracts a new community, right? New culture, new community culture in the Cosmos Hub, which I think so far has always been around kind of theoretical concepts. And now it's actually something that the community can like actually engage with. Yeah. And I think this is like the most exciting part about it from my view.
I agree with you. There's been a meme going around recently of like make Cosmos fun again. And I think that's like critical. Like we are way too serious. We take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And I think that we need to be more fun in many cases. And like the Asteroid Protocol is fun. Pretty undeniable.
Nibiru is also Cosmos coin. Yes, Nibiru is also Cosmos chain. Are you following Nibiru at all, or?
Yeah, Unique, who's one of the lead developers there, worked with me at some. Know that team quite well. Yeah, cool to see more financial products being developed on top of Cosmos.
What holds Atom down on price? Atom is a stable coin. What could be added in the near future, or IBC in general, to bring more value on Atom?
Number go up technology. We need number go up technology. Honestly, I think that we need to do way more on a marketing perspective as an ecosystem. I think we could use another Prop 34, and I would love to see members of the core Atom community go out there, get money from the community pool to raise awareness, and actually go do that. This is your world. You understand how outclassed we are in terms of spend. It's like multiple orders of magnitude, like sometimes 3 or 4 orders of magnitude more in terms of marketing spend for other ecosystems compared to Cosmos. And unless we figure out a way to spend money on marketing as an ecosystem, we're going to continue to see price go down. So, I think Prop 34 Redux is the way to go here. And that would be my answer.
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about this on one of the shows a couple of months ago about, building out, like all we need to do literally is to just copy paste Solana Super Team. What they've been doing over the past 2 years is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think also like what people don't understand is like, and even like a lot of teams within Cosmos, but also like the Cosmos Hub core team, right? It's mostly like builders, engineers. And I think what's really missing is picking up users on an individual basis, right? Because if you're hiring a PR agency, that's not marketing, right? You literally need to do what Solana Super Team did, which is absolutely amazing, and go physically to places around the world, onboard people face to face, literally. That's what they're doing for 3 years, non-stop. There's literally a super team here in Dubai. They do a 2-day hackathon around Token 2049. They do investors dinners. They do workshops for university students in Istanbul, in Berlin, every major city around the world, every city in the US, around every major conference around the world. This is an 8 to probably 9-figure endeavor over like 3 to 4 years. But that's the money they're willing to invest into a long-term game plan, right? That's like Prop 34 on mega steroids, like on 100x steroids.
I mean, how much is in the community pool right now?
I mean, with in the Atom community pool, including
about 100 million. I think that taking 10 million today to do that would be the biggest thing we could do for Atom. And, you know, I would love to see you lead that, Cito. You've done more than anyone else for Cosmos and Atom marketing in general. And like the more that we can do to support that as a community, the better off we're going to be. So, yeah, crypto space saying we need a bigger Prop 34, shall we? Like, let's do it. I'm down.
I'm also generally down, but I also know that the struggle here, like this only works if the whole ecosystem rallies behind it, right? And that's really like what Solana has been doing amazing, right? Is like they managed to get everyone on board there. But I don't know, like in Cosmos, I think that's the thing, you know, it was like kind of holding me back on that, you know. It's fragmented in a way that I don't know, like this, like I said, this only works if everyone is behind it. And if only 10% are behind it, it's not going to have a huge impact. So that's kind of the only thing where I'm like, I would love to do it, but it's a huge commitment and it's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work. You know, you guys, what Cito is not saying is you got to fucking pay me. Pay Cito. He'll sing the song and bring you the users. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. But I think like this year, what we try to do with customers is like deliver on that and like level up to onboard new audiences. And also, I think, you know, the VC community, like VCs are literally, you need to literally pick them up. Like they don't care. Like you need to literally sell it to them. You need to literally like chase them almost, right?
Yeah.
Because they're getting bombarded, especially in the bull run, right? It's really hard to like even get a conversation with them. So yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of work, but I mean, we're doing it anyways with or without $10 million. Like we're trying our best. We're doing our best in our limited capacities with a 5, person team.
I think that this speaks to the strength of the ecosystem, but this is a strength that only goes so far. Because we have not had money, we've had to be way more resourceful, way scrappier, and way more productive on a per unit basis than every other ecosystem. And we've done it. We're way better at that. But what we are not good at doing is pouring gas on things that are working well. And, you know, this is the necessary next piece. I think that, Prop 34 Prop 8, Prop 934. Where are we on our props now?
I think like 900 of them are spam proposals.
891. Oh, Atom airdrop scam proposal. There's so many scam proposals right now.
Yeah, it's insane.
Proposal IBC rate limiting. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would also love to see, like, I think the AA DAO is like in a position where they could also like, that's really the thing. Like we need all these core contributing entities to like team up basically, right? And rally behind this idea, maybe designate one kind of leader, whether that's one entity or one individual, to kind of, spearhead some of these ideas, but it's challenging.
It's hard. And, I think that another thing here that is constantly overlooked, and every time on-chain governance comes into play, this is always the case. People do not understand the opportunity cost that is required to like go do an on-chain proposal like that. Like you run your own company, you're hustling your own money, and it's great. and you make good money, which is, you should, because you're incredibly valuable. And we need to pay talented people what they're worth. And what they're worth is actually a lot of money right now, especially in a bull run. And people are really reluctant to do that. And I'll tell you who's not reluctant to do that. The Solana Foundation, the Avalanche Foundation, the Ethereum Foundation. They have no compunction paying people big checks to bring in big results. And if we want big results, we need to pay out big checks. And like, that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, in my case, I think, you know, I'm mostly living off my own staking rewards from crypto, because I'm all in crypto for 7 years now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm pretty much living mostly off of that. I think the way I've been approaching this is like, just to say, okay, I want to build something, and I consider this a long-term kind of value mechanism that at some point in the future, you know, is something that's like my baby, right? That's like something that I built and kind of my company, my brand. It has strong product market fit, right? There's demand, people have fun, it's enjoyable. And we're driving culture, we're onboarding people, it's educational. But I think like you're saying, right? And that's literally, if you look into the AVAX ecosystem, the Solana ecosystem, even the Cardano ecosystem. I was at the Cardano, I mean, all 3 Cardano projects. But if you look at the Cardano, I was at the Cardano summit here in Dubai. The amount of money they're throwing around is insane. And I don't think customers should go that direction. But I think if you look around, you're like, okay, how are other ecosystems handling those things? When it comes to hosting events, organizing events, developer onboarding, right? I mean, this year we're doing customers in Dubai. I wish I had $1 million right now available to do a 6 months onboarding strategy for developers in India, right? Dubai is a 2-hour flight from India, pretty much any city in India, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai. We need to go there. We need to pick them up. We need to host workshops, small events.
Yeah.
That's what the Solana Foundation, like when the Solana Foundation is doing an event in a city or AVAX, right? They're not only like organizing the event a year in advance, but they're also organizing onboarding funnels for developers a year in advance, which means hitting up all the universities, all major companies in that region. And I think that's like something like organizing an event or like creating content is one thing, but everything that's around it, the onboarding, the marketing, the communications, that's another thing, right? The promotion of the thing that you're actually doing.
The most important part of it. And like, that's also the hardest part of it.
Yeah, because like you can go to an event and you can like sponsor an event, be on a panel, but it's not going to have as big of an impact instead of saying, hey, we're actually investing into that region and literally onboarding people over a certain amount of time, literally explaining them, walking them through over multiple sessions, right? But yeah, maybe that's something for another conversation. I think we could talk about that for hours, but I also don't want to take up too much of your day. We're over an hour. So do you have any final kind of topics, things, thoughts to share?
No, man, I'm good. If you're a developer, you want to get started building Cosmos chains, go check out Spawn. Come talk to us at Rollchains. If you have any Cosmos chain and you want to write data to Celestia, hit us up. Yeah.
I will show the Twitter. Rollchains Twitter.
At Rollchains, go follow us. We're almost at 2,000 followers. You too can be the 2,000th follower at Rollchains. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool, man. This has been great. Do you see any question in the chat that we missed or?
No, I think we're looking good.
Well, that's actually a good use case. GAN proposals making atom deflationary. That's true, because the deposited atom get burned if it gets widowed, right? All right. Thanks, man. This has been great.
Tito, this is a blast. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, man.